Well, you saw it live right here yesterday. This time yesterday, Google CEO grilled on Capitol Hill members of the House Judiciary Committee asking the tech executive about bias on the search engine and its data collection practices. Got a little heated at times. Listen to some of it.
Does Google, through this phone, know that I have moved here and moved over to the left? It's either yes or no.
Not by default. There may be a Google service which you've opted in to use, and if...
So Google knows that I am moving over there. It's not a trick question. You know, you make $100 million a year, you ought to be able to answer that question. Yes. Do you believe that Google is biased? It's either yes or no.
No, not in our approach.
For you to come in here and say there is no political bias in Google tells us you either are being dishonest, I don't want to think that, or you don't have a clue how politically biased Google is.
Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Virginia Congressman Bob Goodlatte, was at that hearing and led that hearing, and he joins us now. It's great to have you here this morning, Mr. Chairman. So that was our first time seeing Mr. Pichai answer questions from lawmakers. How do you think it went in that room yesterday?
Well, I thought it was a very good hearing, and I hope millions of Americans were watching because I hope they learned a lot about how companies like Google have a tremendous amount of information about them and a tremendous responsibility. And you know, with a company like Google that has 90% of the search taking place in the United States, and YouTube, their subsidiary, has 75% of American adults, 95% of 18 to 24-year-olds using their service. Even the mere suspicion that they would use their algorithms to influence political bias or promote their products over their competitors raises a lot of issues that need to be addressed. So I'm glad we held this hearing. We didn't get all the answers that we needed from Mr. Pichai, but he definitely took a lot of questions on a lot of subjects, and he agreed to get back to us on some that there either wasn't the time or we couldn't go into the depth that needs to be done to look at those things. So this is a very important issue, and these companies that have huge market share need to either do more to educate the public, more to self-police, or they're going to face various reviews in the next Congress. I won't be here to do it, but I know others will.
Some people hear that as Republicans talking about regulating business. Are you talking about regulating some of these technology giants like Google that you just mentioned dominates 90% of the search market, Mr. Chairman?
I would prefer not to regulate, but I do think the application of our antitrust laws, which promotes fair competition, needs to be reviewed. And I think that the fact that Google, unlike Fox News or a whole host of other news organizations that edit their content, determine who gets on their programs or what appears in the newspaper, and are subject to libel laws and other liability, they don't have Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to give them protection. That needs to be reviewed because now it's clear that companies like Google are doing more to edit the content that appears on their platform, making them more hands-on. If it were just, here's our platform, put whatever you want on it, then that would definitely be totally free speech. But if it's not free speech, why do they get a free pass on protection against libel, for example?
You know, I think the American people were fascinated watching the exchanges in that room. There were so many questions asked that so many of us all have about privacy issues or conservative bias when it comes to such an enormous company that's a part of all of our lives, or at least most of our lives.